All right, guys, let's welcome Kenny Hickey of Sun Don't Shine to the Talk Toomey podcast here. Kenny, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. I've been informed to ask you what happened to Johnny today because Johnny Kelly was supposed to be on with us.
Oh, I wanted to get the details on it. Let me look at if he ever answered me my question or not. What actually? Okay, so he was riding his bike this afternoon. His
All right.
motorcycle, in beautiful, whatever, suburban Dallas, and a bee smashed into his forehead, and apparently
Okay.
on impact stung him, and his entire face blew up from it. So
Oh God.
he's in urgent care right now. think I think he took some Benadryl or something. It really didn't go down, so he went to the hospital. I said, "You should have came on with your face all swollen with a great story."
That'd be awesome. Yeah, definitely get some blabbermouth headlines for that.
But he's still sitting there, I guess, at the doctor dealing with it.
Did he know that he was allergic to bees?
I know just about everything about Johnny, and I'm pretty sure neither of us knew he was allergic to bees. And I'm not sure he ever gotten stung by a bee before. I don't remember him ever being stung by a bee, but I guess if you're doing like 60 miles an hour and the stinger really gets embedded in you, it
Yeah.
might be like a more intense than usual sting.
Yeah. That's definitely a way to a way to find out that you're allergic to bees. Hitting them at 100 miles an hour on your motorcycle.
He was doing 100 miles an hour. Jeez.
Well, hopefully not. Yeah, you never know with him though.
Mm.
Well, let's dive into to the latest single, man. The Promise Ring. Obviously, killer track. Talk to me about it.
Let's see. It was one of the 5 or 6
The
songs
Promise song. Sorry, I don't know why. I think I wrote down ring.
the Promise song. Yes.
The Promise song.
Um, well, it was one of the 5 or 6 songs that we had been working on. The last time we were together was probably, I want to say, yeah, around Halloween. And we worked on a group of we had like maybe 2 song ideas, and then, right there, worked on other stuff, different ideas. Winstein had some ideas, Todd had some ideas. We just threw them into the pot. And we're just trying to at least complete one song actually recorded so we can hear it back. But in the meanwhile, trying to amass other material, and this was just one of the songs where I had an idea for. I had like 5 or 6 licks, and I think I just arranged them sort of haphazardly, quickly in the control room. And Johnny was on the drums in the live room, with headphones on, and just ran through these, pretty fast, intense riffs into the breakdown of the song and stuff. And like, they really didn't know what to make of it until probably like 2 weeks later when I came home to my studio and listened to what we had done, and I liked what I heard. There was no vocals written. There was no music written. So I just sort of rearranged it so it made sense as a song. And then laid on my guitar tracks and proceeded to write the lyrics and lay down vocals. And then sent it back to New Orleans, where Dwayne from OCD Recording and Winstein worked on the bridge and laying their guitars down and laying his leads down and creating all of his layered stuff over it. And they took their interpretation of it. So that's how it was really created.
Okay. I think the last time we spoke, we had talked about you guys actually getting in a room together and kind of creating in a room together rather than just sending files back and forth and like, hey, I got this riff.
Unfortunately,
I got that riff, kind of thing.
We would love it all to be like that, but you need the time and the money to do it. It takes time, right? So we're going to be getting together soon again to do the last, maybe get another 4 songs so we can release a full record come the fall. So I would like this time to have like 4 solid ideas of mine, like 2 parts maybe. Give them to Winstein, give them to Todd, see what they come up. They rate the rest of the song, and then when we get together, we know what we're gonna do, and we just record it. That's the optimal way that it goes down. But it doesn't always go down that way. So I came back the last time, just like the time before that, which is a bunch of tracks, some of them half done. Some of them just ideas, and some you gotta make do sometimes. And it's a weird way to create, but it can be done. I think what came out in the end, it didn't come out great.
the drums on the Promise song sound so good. Like it's it sounds very they sound very natural. I think
They are.
it's crazy. It's crazy to hear drums that aren't, resampled
Well,
and whatnot. I mean, it sounds like an actual drum kit. I was like, oh, that's what those sound like again.
well, if there's something Johnny hates, it's sound replacement, and I don't blame him. I agree. Everything is just too refined, too perfect these days. Everything sounds the same. And, Dwayne Simona, he's the engineer and the producer at OCD Recording. He's great at getting drum sounds. He's got, great mics. He knows what he's doing. So he mic'd it up great. Johnny used his actual kit on that song. So, yeah, I love the way the drums sound too. I agree with you. It sound great.
Yeah. It's been years since I've actually heard a drum kit on a recording.
Yeah.
Talk about the name change a little bit, man. Obviously, Sun Don't Shine, taking the place of I Am. Talk about changing the name.
Well, I Am was originally brought in by Andrew Spalding. He's the Corpse Paint record. He owns Corpse Paint Records. He's the one who first brought us together and said, hey, I want to see what you guys would come up with. It was his brainchild, and he had the name I Am. And we were like, we weren't even a real band name. We didn't really, we're that concerned with it, We're like, okay, cool. Well, then when it started getting more serious, we started compiling more songs and we started getting like actual real reactions from fans and stuff. Well, especially Kirk was like, well, we got to change this name because there's two other bands with it. There's a band I Am with I, not EYE, but I Am, a metal band from Dallas, and then there was a rap band that I think they just put a record out, but you never heard from them again, called I Am EYIM on
right.
They had and they actually trademarked the name. So it had to be done. If we were going to move forward, we needed to change the name. So, we just threw around a bunch of names and that was one of them that was thrown out. And Winston really loved that one because it reminded him of Robin Trower's Bridge of Sighs, the first line. So, and has a blues edge to it. So, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think the I Am name was a little bit confusing. It's just like, how do you spell it? What does it mean? Who is there an I? Who is the I?
I mean, in this day and age, a lot of bands are confusing names. Never mind, you can't even read them. They're not even legible.
So where did the Sun Don't Shine name come from?
I think it was one of my ideas, and I pulled it out of a line from Symptom of the Universe, or maybe, no, it was Hole in the Sky. We're living easy where the sun doesn't shine. I just wrote that down, that's what I'll do. I'll just go through my favorite lyrics of songs and stuff, and I'll just compile phrases from them. Because today you can't forget about having a one-word name. It doesn't exist anymore because every asshole on the face of the earth has a band with, a profile, and it even has it on, even though they have 0 followers, they have it on Spotify and have, you know what I mean? And what are you going to do? You can't now put your real name on. Now you got 2 bands with the same name. Now, it doesn't work. So you have to be a little more ingenuity. Yeah, I have to use a little more ingenuity. You got to combine words and stuff like that. It can't be, forget about one-word names anymore. It's harder to get a name these days. It's harder to establish a name. Way harder.
Hey, I've looked at, doing podcasts and whatnot, trying to, hey, why don't we call it this? And then you look it up and there's like 8 other shows already called that. And you're just like, man,
It's just so flooded. Everything is so flooded that, it's just, you got to work harder. You have to squeeze harder for it,
How are you enjoying singing in this band? I mean, you got a killer voice. So how is it, kind of being the front man?
I don't know if enjoy is the right way to put it. I don't enjoy singing usually, unless it's really easy for me to sing. Singing is a very, you have to concentrate singing. It takes a lot out of you, and especially if you're doing it live, you got to take care of yourself. Especially some of this stuff is very, it's not easy. You have to maintain that kind of energy level. So it's not an enjoying thing. What's enjoying is hearing it back and it sounds great. Wow, yeah, that sounds great. That's how I wanted it to sound, That's the only enjoying part of it. When it comes out good and it sounds right. But actually physically doing it's like working out. You like having muscles, but you hate going to the gym, doing the gym, working out. It's fucking pain in the ass. Not for me. I'm actually addicted to working out. I love it. But for most people, it's the chore, you know what I mean? That results in what you want in the end. So I don't really enjoy singing unless like serenade myself with my acoustic guitar and playing something mellow, and I'm just singing to myself.
See, I think that's where I would be like, why don't we touch it up a little bit? Where Johnny doesn't want the drums, touched up. I'm like, yeah, we're throwing effect on that.
Oh no, give me Johnny does want the drums touched up. He's very, very particular. So he's like, there's a lot of back and forth. He has definitely things he wants to hear. I'm not talking about like moving gritting stuff and moving it around and taking the soul out of it, because the band wouldn't work with that. If you did that with this band, if you quantize this shit, they would suck the soul right out of it, right? It's got a rock and roll edge to it. That's what it needs.
Have you ever heard the someone put the intro to Running with the Devil like on the grid, and like the bass, the don't like, but they put it on actual like in time, and it's awful. It's like don't, but you gotta have that feeling. They're pushing the pull,
especially Van Halen. I mean,
yeah,
and he didn't tune a lot of times. He was just like tune up. Oh, this sounds good,
right?
And they would record that way, And then, there was always the problem with Eddie, because he was so lyrical, so expressive with every little sound and every little bend he did, that you could not double his guitars to thicken them. So that's why the first album, their solution was to put the guitar on the left side and put the reverb on the right side to try to make it sound spread out, because you could not double. He could never play a song twice the same, so you could never double his guitars, But it didn't matter. It's so fucking great.
Oh, yeah. And then on the flip side, you got Dimebag, who, I've had Terry Date on the show talking to him about sitting there and like, he's, tripling solos and, just getting note perfect and stuff. It's crazy how incredible that guy was.
Cool.
Obviously saw you guys open for Pantera back in the day many times with Typo, man. Talk a little bit about, some Pantera stories.
Well, that was probably the most. I would call that the touring cycle that started. That was Bloody Kisses, right? It started like this with us playing clubs and stuff, and then we opened up for Mötley Crüe, and then it just started reaching its peak. It was great. We were having a great time, And Pantera was the peak. And the downward slope. It's the excess just got. I mean, at that point, we had this guy called the pharmacist that used to follow us around. He was a pharmacist, actually, with a trunk full of homemade drugs. That's how out of control it was, And then Rita and Dime would have, like, I think, like every Wednesday night or Thursday night was ecstasy night, roll night. Everybody had a roll. Everybody had a drop. If you didn't, they stuffed it down with a funnel down your throat. So it was fun, man. We had a great time. It was the heart of the 90s. Anything went. Both bands were at the peak of what we were doing. We couldn't fuck anything up, no matter what we did. We'll fuck it up.
No cell phone cameras.
No cell phone cameras. Well, no, right. If you wanted to get lost, you could actually really get lost back then. So it was the last shebang for me of the 90s. It was the greatest point. That was 96, mid-90s.
Yeah, it was like Far Beyond Driven era, Pantera, just crushing, man. I can still like picture it in my head, like Josh's hair, just, he's on the keyboard, his hair is just, sideways, just crushing up there.
Philip used to call him Wild Josh in the evening.
And those like toilet paper roll, you guys just chucking those everywhere and stuff like that, man. It was wild times. I loved as like a teenager going to a Typo show, like all those goth girls coming out, and I'm just like eyes as big as silver dollars everywhere I looked. I was just like, what is this? This is amazing. I want to do this.
Ladies in the audience, that's a whole other group of people. There's females out there.
Yeah, I was going to like, Metallica and Cannibal Corpse shows, and it's all dudes, and you go to a Typo show and you're just like, man, let's do this. Do you we were talking about the name Sun Don't Shine earlier. Do you remember the Typo Negative name, discussion?
Oh my God, there were so many names. We went through more pains than Sun Don't Shine did. We went through one name change. I think we went through 4.
Yeah.
The first name was New Minority. And then at the time back then, with Carnivore, Peter did this thing called, he did a hardcore night at Lemoore. I think it was a Sunday, or it might have been a Sunday hardcore show at Lemoore. Bunch of local hardcore players plus Carnivore. They call it Negative Night. This is before Typo. And, it had the whole negative symbol and everything. You call it Negative Night. Or Negative Night, yeah, something like that. So that kind of carried into the whole Typo kind of imagery and theme. And the first name was New Minority. That didn't last long. And it went from New Minority to Repulsion, which I think was kind of like a horror movie from the 70s, whatever. But that's what kind of like gave the idea. Peter wanted this puke green color.
Okay.
Really horrible green color that everybody hates. Go with Repulsion. So the negative symbol was still on that. Now you'll see our first cassettes, Repulsion, it has the negative. And at that point, we changed the name to Sub-Zero. And it kind of went with the negative. We all got the tattoos. We all got, that. And there ended up being a couple of neighbors away already a band called Sub-Zero with the name Sub-Zero. And they were like, hey, we're going to sue you if you use this name.
Right.
Like, all right. So now Peter's like, I got to find a name that actually matches tattoos. We have tattoos now. It's got to tie into that somehow. We heard a blood drive for Typo Negative blood, and bing, that's where it came in. It ties in nicely with the tattoo and everything. But that's the story. There was probably a year and a half or whatever like that. Almost 2 years shuffling names on.
Yeah, I was so pumped when you guys came out, and I was like, because I have Typo Negative blood, and I was just like, that's what I have.
I have no idea what my blood type is. I'm 58. Got no idea.
Yeah, it's funny because like if you look at Typo Negative blood, it's actually like one of the rarer blood types you can have. And so when I give blood, like the American Red Cross like shows up at my house like, hey, you want to give some more of that blood up?
Wow.
They get on you for it.
Can you get more money to it? Can you get more money? I bet you could haggle with them.
Yeah, I mean, or I find like some like rich old people that like need a blood transfusion and be like, hey, I got that good stuff, But it's also going to be bad if I ever need blood, then it's hard, then it's probably not going to be out there for me. But
well, that's the downside, kid.
Right.
Why don't you refrigerate some of your own blood?
I might do that. I might just after the interview, I'll go upstairs and knock out a few pints for myself. So Sun Don't Shine have some European dates lined up, things like that. So what all's on the horizon for the band?
As of now, we don't have any dates lined up. We're going to utilize the time in April to get together.
Okay.
Write about 4 more songs, so we have a full LP to release in the fall. We were going to first do an EP, but then powers that be decided it would be more effective to do a full-length record. So that's what we're going to put our time into. We'll release the full-length record, and then we'll worry about, where we're going to do our first group of shows or what tours we're going to get on after that.
All right. How do you like seeing like some of your contemporaries out there, like Life of Agony, still killing it, and Biohazard back together and stuff like that, man? So
it's great.
Those
great. I was at their first reunion show at Irving Plaza. I was about a year ago now. Love it. I love those guys. I have such a history with those guys, with all of them, LOA guys too. Man, more power to them. Keep going, man. I'm going to keep going until I croak. What else is there to do? What are we to do?
Right?
AARP, get a wheelchair. What the fuck am I going to do with myself? I want to play music. Let me come in a wheelchair.
Isn't that wild, man? I was, I can remember when my grandmother was my age, and I thought she was like the oldest lady I'd ever seen in my life. And then now I'm like,
you are.
Well, yeah, that too. It's just
like, it sucks being the oldest guy everywhere you go.
Right? It's crazy, man. I mean, but it's funny, like when we were kids, 60 something look was a million. And then, you look super young, you're holding it together. What's up, man?
It's just luck and genetics. I think it's genetics.
Genetics.
89, she chain smokes. I mean, I literally went over there like the other week, and she's got the wall behind her is all mirror glass in her living room.
Right.
And she sits there watching old movies on Turner Movie Classics, smoking cigarettes. And I'm like, Ma, I'm looking at the mirror, and I can't see my reflection. I'm like, what is this? And I wipe it like with a paper towel. It's like nicotine.
Oh,
And she's 89. She didn't get a wrinkle. So it's just luck of genetics, I think, more than anything else. I mean, I do take care of myself. You know, I don't drink. I don't smoke. I work out daily. I eat, you know, whole foods. I do everything I can. But really, I think it's mostly because of genetics.
yeah. Yeah, my dad smoked since he was like 13, and he went to the doctor recently and they're like, "Oh, your lungs are perfect." And I was like, "Why did you have to do it? Why are you telling him that his lungs are
I
perfect?"
know.
Just,
Same thing with
like,
my mother. Same thing with my mother. Well, my mother, you know, she thinks she's perfect, but like she wouldn't be alive right now if it wasn't for this genius surgeon, heart surgeon, 20 years ago that saved her life. You know, her aorta room was burst. Yeah. You know,
oof.
medical science, man.
Right, right. Um, you brought up that Mötley Crüe tour earlier, and you were talking about, you're like on the way up, and they always talk about kind of like they were on their way down at that point, where you
They
guys,
never really went down, Mötley Crüe. They were just on a dip at that point.
right?
You know, that was the whole grunge era, and every hair metal band was having a hard time, way more harder time than they were having. You know, so at that point in time, I think they released their alternative Mötley Crüe type album, which I liked. I thought was good.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I did,
with Karabi.
you know, the 80s fans weren't ready for it. And it was just, you know, whatever, hiccup in their thing. But, you know, Mötley Crüe will always be Mötley Crüe. They established their place in history, you know.
The tour was you guys, and was it King's X or Queensryche? Was it
King's X. It was
King's
us
X?
and King's X. Yeah. Was
Yeah.
that right? Wait a minute. No, it was Mötley Crüe. It was
Yeah,
us
yeah.
and King's X. We went on, then King's X. Those guys are great.
Oh, yeah.
What awesome guys, too. We know them for years. Yeah. It was us, King's X, and Mötley Crüe.
How wild was it for you, like when Black Number One kind of started hitting MTV and getting some airplay and Headbangers Ball and whatnot at the time? Like, Mom on TV.
I never said mom on. She wouldn't be impressed. Wouldn't be impressed by that. Saying you should have stood in the carpenters union. You should have got a city job. What is this bullshit you're doing? So only later on, when we got bigger, and that brought her to a show where she see what what I was actually doing. But it was, it's a great feeling, to see that happen. But like it's not like it happened overnight. It's not like today you got the guys, these like YouTube stars today that they're playing guitar in their cars one day and then suddenly they explode and now they're playing like Four Nights at Barclays.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It wasn't like that. We had to really grind it for like 6-7 years before any of that happened. I mean, grind it, a lot of shows, a lot of stuff, put a lot of energy into it. So it was cool, to see it actually break and make the wave it did. I'm glad it did.
With let's see how to phrase this. With Nirvana, obviously the guys like the other day got together for the California wildfires thing, put on like a 15-minute set with a couple of Joan Jett and St. Vitus, a couple of singers come out there like that. Would there be anything that in New York that could get you guys together just for a tribute show or anything like that?
I think so.
To run through some tracks.
I would do something like that. Absolutely. At this point, the band seemed to have transcended to a whole new generation and stuff. And I think it would be really cool to get a couple of key singers, real guys, or maybe one guy or whatever, to come and do it as a tribute. Absolutely. Maybe like a group of shows, 4 or 5 shows, something like that. If we can get Josh to do it.
Yeah. Is he the sticking point with stuff like that? There's always one.
Yeah, Josh is just like, he's done with music. He feels like he's moved on, but like, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. You get nostalgic after a time, you know what I mean? So you never know. You can never say never. So.
Hey, yeah, I mean, we're all at that point, man. Nostalgia will be the death of all of us at this point, man. I mean, it's crazy. Every time you turn around, there's like these bands that were, C and D level bands in the 90s and early 2000s that are reuniting for festivals. And I'm like, how is this a big deal now? Like it wasn't a big deal then, but it's crazy, man, how time just puts a stamp on everything like that.
It does. Like, going to see Pantera at Madison Square Garden. I mean, That was amazing. And I want to hang out with the guys after. I'm like, dudes, now all you got to do is get on the cover of Rolling Stone. Like, in the 90s, you couldn't play the Garden. You couldn't get on Rolling Stone. You might as well go for it now.
Man, I went to one of the first you know, Pantera, the new Pantera shows or whatever you call them.
Yeah.
And, you know, 20,000 people at this in the amphitheater. And like I had tears in my eyes, you know, with the videos they're playing and stuff. It was amazing. I walk out of there. Oh, well, sorry. We'll start at the beginning. We get there, you know, a few hours early, and people in the parking lot tailgating like it's 1995, you know, throwing the football. I could hear people talking about being, you know, I saw it in Indianapolis. People were like, "Oh man, we drove from St. Louis, we drove from Cleveland, we drove from
And
here and there."
kids,
Like,
there's young kids too. It wasn't
yeah,
just like our age people, because there wouldn't have been that many people for us.
mhm,
It was a
yeah,
whole new generation.
yeah. And yeah, man, just even like so after the show, we're walking out, man, and just the vibes were just so high, and everybody was just so happy. You know, online, everybody's mad. This isn't the real
Oh, that's
Pantera,
bullshit.
you know.
That's bullshit.
And then,
Yeah,
but then
I
you go to the
like
shows,
that.
and
Yeah, then they come down and they buy shirts and they drink.
yeah, yeah, it's good times, man.
I think Philip's right. Philip's right. I remember him saying at the concert that I see all you kids out here. Your parents obviously educated you well in music, and the power of the music filtered through to another generation.
Yeah, see, it's good stuff, man. Well, as we wrap up here, man, just kind of give me the down low on what's coming up with Sun Don't Shine. Obviously, you can go get the Promise song over at Corpse Paint Records. Got a 7-inch T-shirt, hats, all kinds of good stuff over there.
Yeah, and you know, listen to the single. Go to YouTube, listen on the platforms. You know, give us your comments. You can visit us at Sun Don't Shine music on Instagram and on Facebook. You can come to my Facebook, Kenny Hickey Official. My Instagram, Kenny Hickey Official. And yeah, rocking on. You know, we're gonna finish this record and we're gonna put out a full record in the fall. But up until then, we'll be releasing singles and videos, trailing up until then. So,
And do you like that? Do you like that kind of rollout, that format of just kind of
it's the way it's done now. You know, it's harder.
the seed?
It's harder because you gotta keep writing and keep producing. But it's the way it's done now. You know, to stay visible. So yeah, I do like it. It kind of like keeps me on my toes.
Nice. Well, Kenny Hickey, man, I appreciate you taking some time here, and hopefully we will talk to you soon.
Thank you, bro.